So in today's episode, I'm going to show you 3 simple rules that will help you figure out what type of content you should be creating. Okay, so you've already decided that you need to start putting out content to market your business. But when you actually try to figure out what type of content you should be creating and what topics you should be making content on, well, you sort of panic. The 2 most common questions I get asked as a content marketing consultant are, what type of content should I be creating and what should I be creating content about? So in today's episode, I'm going to show you 3 simple and free tools that I use to plan my content. I'm Sivan Felder, and I'm the lead marketing strategist at Two Heads Consulting. Every Monday, we bring you a new marketing video where we break down a different content marketing topic that will help you as an entrepreneur grow your business through content marketing. If you like what you've seen so far and you want to see more, then hit the subscribe button so that we keep making these videos because they're really exhausting to make. So before you can decide what kind of content you should be creating, we first need to talk a little bit about what content actually is. So let's just start with the basics. Content is any sort of information that you give over to your audience that's documented. So that means it can be a video, a blog post, a picture on Instagram. It can be a flyer that you hand out at the street corner. Any sort of information that's recorded and shared with your audience. There's online content and offline content. There's no one type of content or even rules about what the content has to be. So keep in mind that when I say content, I literally mean the sky's the limit. Of course, the fact that there are so many different types of content can seem a little bit nerve-wracking, but I promise if you spend 10 minutes following this process, you'll see it's not as scary as it looks, and there's a pretty easy formula you can use to figure out exactly what kind of content you should be creating. Okay, so let's start with the question, what type of content should you be making? Right? We said that there are blog posts, videos, pictures, stories on Instagram, worksheets. The 2 questions I always ask myself before making any piece of content is, what type of content can I create right now without using any extra tools or equipment? And number 2, what type of content is most likely to interest and engage my audience? So if you want to start creating videos, but you hate talking on camera and you don't own a camera, then that's probably not the first type of content you should create. If you're an amazing writer and you love to create blog posts, then that's what you should focus on. If you're a designer who knows how to make infographics on Photoshop, use that. Don't try to reinvent the wheel or leap out of your comfort zone on the first try. It's always better to start with what you know and get comfortable creating content in a format that makes sense for you. It's also important to figure out what type of content will most interest your target audience. So for example, our target audience loves videos. We spent a lot of time creating blog posts and putting them on our website, and we were finding that they just weren't driving as much traffic or engagement as we'd hoped. So we stopped doing that and now are just focusing on creating videos. But again, videos is not the only way to attract your audience. You need to find out what makes sense for you on your budget and time, and also what will interest people. So once you've figured out the format that your content is going to be in, you need to brainstorm some ideas of topics that your content can be about. So here's how we come up with content ideas. We find out exactly what our audience wants to know. I know this might sound obvious, but I can't tell you how many people create content about what they want to say and not what their audience wants to hear. So instead of sitting alone in a room brainstorming content ideas, why don't you go and ask your target audience? So here are 3 simple and free tools you can use to find out what your audience wants to hear so that you can create content for them. The first tool that I always use is Google Forms. Google Forms is a great way for you to interview and ask questions to previous clients without feeling intrusive or creepy and stalkerish. Put together a list of questions that will help you better understand who your previous customers were so that you can try to attract people who were just like them. Some questions I ask are, what was your biggest struggle that you were facing that led you to hire me? Or what impact did using this product have on your life? I know it can be hard to figure out what kind of questions to ask, so I've included a link in the description that'll take you to a worksheet with some basic questions to get started. The point of this crowdsourcing is to take the information you learned from previous customers and turn that into content you can use to engage a new audience. Remember, content doesn't need to be super fancy or creative. It just needs to provide something valuable to one person, and that's a great place to start. So even if you just answer one pain point or one question that your audience might have, that's enough for them to get them to be interested in your content. The second tool I use to come up with content ideas are relevant Facebook groups. This is a great place for you to get to know how your target audience is talking about a certain topic or problem that they're having so that you can then create content that answers those questions or problems. It'll also help you figure out how they're referring to those things. Maybe they don't even realize that they have a problem, so you offering them a solution isn't going to make a difference. But you can learn how they talk about that problem, and then when you present your content, you can answer those questions and at the end, share your own solution. So for example, I know that entrepreneurs feel really stressed about creating content because they don't even know the topics that they should be creating content on. So I created a video talking about how to come up with content ideas because I knew that that was the way that they were referring to it and the struggle that they were facing. Every time somebody asks a question that's relevant to a topic that has to do with your product or service, write it down. You'll see by the end that you'll have a list of hundreds of things that you can talk about, and you didn't even have to come up with the ideas on your own. The third tool I use to brainstorm content ideas is a very nifty free add-on tool to YouTube called TubeBuddy. I'll include a download link in the description below. Now, it's specifically used for YouTube keywords, but I use this to come up with topics for all of my content. Let's say I want to make a piece of content on how to come up with content ideas. So I open the TubeBuddy window and I click on Keyword Explorer. Then I type in the keyword I think is relevant, so content ideas. And then it shows here that this is a terrible keyword because it's way too vague and there's a lot of competition. But here it gives me some different topics that are related that might be better for me to talk about. So if I choose content ideas for YouTube videos, that's much more specific and has an overall good rating. There's also content ideas for Instagram. So here are already 2 topics you can talk about that have to do with content ideas that are much more specific and relevant to your audience. And you can use this for any type of keyword, any sort of topic, and it'll give you a lot of suggestions on what you can talk about related to that topic that might be interesting to your audience. Content creation doesn't have to be stressful, and there are so many ways for you to come up with fantastic ideas that you don't have to think of on your own. Don't spend so much time worrying about how to make the most amazing or creative piece of content. Just make it valuable for one person and answer one question. Write down a list of all the things that you could talk about, all the questions that you could answer, and you have an amazing list of content ideas. If this video was helpful and you want to learn more about content marketing for your business, hit subscribe and we'll be back next Monday.